Welcome to Breaking Down Bergman. Today we're looking at A Lesson in Love.
Jag kan fortsätta vara din älskarinna.
Nej, tack.
Tacka åtminstone inte hela tiden. Det är alltså definitivt slut.
Det kan man säga. Tack för den här tiden.
Vill jag så skrika?
Jag medger att mitt återtåg är snöpligt, men jag är inte någon passionerad stålman. Jag är bara en trött och uttråkad karlslok med huvudvärk och bonånger. Kan det vara tristare?
Det är för att du börjar bli gammal.
Det stämmer. Jag är lite gammal. Lite gammal. Lite gammal.
Återvänder till den förlåtande hustruns förlåtande famn. Du är väl säker att hon sitter där hemma och väntar nu på hyllan så du kan plocka ner henne och damma av henne. Den kära gamla pipan.
Vill syster Lisa visa fruverin ut? Ta in nästa patient. Ut.
Genast, syster. Adjö då, David. Det är naturligtvis synd om dig. Den som hela sitt liv tvingas att betrakta kvinnorna ur omvänt perspektiv blir naturligtvis lite vrickad så småningom. Var har du förresten min portnyckel?
So film number 14, and Bergman has made a bit of a departure from what we've experienced as of late.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift from Sawdust and Tinsel. So this one's filmed in 1954, and I think from what we found out in our research, mostly because of economic reasons.
Yeah, it was a bit of a moment of desperation, I think, for Bergman. It's not the first time that we've come across this issue with him, but he needed the money. He took on this film partly because Sawdust and Tinsel was such a
critical fail.
Well, a critical fail, but also not a moneymaker.
No.
And that's a big issue here because the studio was looking for some money, and they wanted something that was going to work. Of course, people love romantic comedies. A Lesson in Love was lighthearted. Well, it was a departure for Bergman. It was the kind of thing audiences would fork out the money to see.
I think what he did was, you know, once he realized that he's in a little bit of jeopardy financially, he went back to an experience that he had that he's been trying to, personally, I think, cultivate since the beginning of his career. And in one of the later films, Secrets of Women, there was a sequence there that went over very well with audiences, which was
the finale, the elevator.
Yes, the elevator scene, and it was great.
We discussed it, not knowing, actually, that they were going to return. Actress Eva Dahlbeck and Gunnar Björnstrand, they were the two stuck in the elevator. They were the two that really sort of captured our attention.
And they had this great chemistry with their kind of banter and their back and forth sparring verbally. And the comedy came not just from what they were saying, but the way that they delivered the lines. It almost was like they were an old married couple and just had this great rhythm between them. And so we see that here in this film as well, except it lasts much longer than just the one scene.
And it really, it works. There's a comedic success that Bergman has reached in this film that he has yet to really perfect, and he's tried.
He has. I mean, we saw comic elements emerge in a lot of the films from, you know, the lighthearted It Rains on Our Love, which was only his second film, and you can argue also an attempt at a rom-com. And then he had bizarre comic sequences, like, for example, in Prison, which is not even remotely close to a comedy. There's film within a film slapstick routine, which is very bizarre in every place.
We never really got it.
And then there's random dogs that show up and dance on their hind feet. I mean, like, so he always tries to throw in the comedy.
I think the one thing that bothered us was that it was very slow to start.
Yeah, it was difficult to get into, and the story was slow. The characters were flat. You couldn't really attach yourself to them. It was kind of tedious to begin.
And Bergman's, I guess, in some ways we think he sort of intentionally did this because there's a moment on a train where it's revealed that the two are actually married and on the rocks. Mm-hmm. You think they're strangers, but no, that's not the case. They were sort of playing a game on each other. And that really puts the movie into a spin. It makes it interesting, but up until then, I think a lot of people might be, borderline ready to bail on it.
Yeah, and saying, comedy? What? Because it's really not that funny at the beginning. It's not meant to be, right? Mm-hmm. The beginning of the film is the main character with his mistress. And then we have this turn of events where we find out that he's actually left his mistress and is now pursuing his wife and trying to reconcile with her, and has been chatting her up on the train as if she's this, exotic stranger, and realistically she's his wife. So as a viewer, you're sitting there and you're going kind of like, oh, well, I didn't, what? And it really re-engages you into the film. One thing that I found a little bit peculiar in the casting was the choice to bring back Harriet Anderson in the role of Nix, who is the couple's daughter. Now, we've seen Harriet in 2 previous films, Summer with Monica and Sawdust and Tinsel, and we agreed that she played a very hypersexualized female role.
It's quite the opposite here.
Yeah. So here, no longer is she the pinup girl, she is a little tomboy.
She has a real gender confusion. There's a lot of conversation. Most of her role is sort of spent saying how she would like to be a man.
Yeah, she really wants to be a boy, and she wants to experience life as a man. And even though this is supposed to be a lighthearted romantic comedy, I think Bergman is really reluctant to completely abandon some of the interests and themes that he really feels passionate about. One of them being the psychology of women and the experience of women and the desires that they might have. So, him kind of trying to wedge that in there with the character of Nix is interesting, although it's a little bit amputated.
It feels very uneven and never really fully explored, and that is one of the faults of this film. It is enjoyable. There are some great elements in it, but little touches like this, they don't fit. It doesn't work. And
yeah, it
not
doesn't
everything
go
pieces
anywhere.
Together, yeah. One of the interesting turns that Bergman takes in here is the inclusion of a lot of physical comedy. There's 2 instances in particular I'm thinking of. One of them is a flashback to a failed wedding ceremony where the bride and her groom-to-be end up in a very violent clash that, doesn't turn ugly in the way that would make it not funny, but is very physical in the way that we were laughing at the scene. Now, the other moment is late in the film, a barroom brawl between the 2 women, which is quite shocking because essentially that's a cat fight.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect to see this in a Bergman film.
No, it certainly sneaks up on us for sure.
I think it's actually one of the highlights of the film. It's just the way it sneaks into the movie. It was just so surprising. Bergman sort of designed it that the revelation early on that the couple is married was the real shocker, but I think I was just as surprised that we saw these women basically pulling each other's hair as people watched in excitement.
I agree. I think it was well choreographed, both from the physical aspect of them actually acting it out, because they did a really good job. It was hilarious. But also from, choreographed into the whole dialogue of the film.
So that brings us to the inevitable question, is this essential Bergman?
I think not.
I have to agree with you, but of the recent Bergman films that we've seen, I think that this one might be on my list as a hidden gem.
I think that's a little generous. I mean, it was enjoyable and there were good elements, but I would credit a lot of that to the actors.
Okay, the actors, yes, but also Bergman. I mean, he's behind the camera, he's worked with these guys before, and he really knows how to turn the knobs and pull the strings to make them look great in front of the camera. And I mean, it's the 3 of them that really make that magic.
I guess so.
Well, I guess that brings us to the end of another Breaking Down Bergman. Join us next time when we look at Dreams. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and let us know what you thought of this film by posting on the YouTube wall. And thanks for breaking down Bergman with us.
See you next time.